I've learned that in every family, there's someone who smiles while twisting the knife. In mine, it was Agnes, my mother-in-law. She always smiled, at dinner, at church, even when she was saying something that made my stomach clench. "Oh, honey," she'd say with that sugary tilt of her head, "it's just amazing how confident you are for someone who didn't go to college. I'm Letitia. I'm 31, a pediatric nurse, and I married Ethan 2 years ago. We met during COVID, one of those weird, beautiful things that came out of chaos. He was sweet, grounded, kind in a quiet way that felt like home. I thought I had found my person. What I didn't realize back then was that Ethan wasn't just Agnes's youngest son. He was her entire identity. From the moment we got engaged, I felt something shift. It started with small things. Agnes asked me if I was really going to keep working after marriage. She accidentally booked Ethan for a weekend getaway on the same weekend we had our premarital counseling. She bought me books on femininity and left them in our mailbox with little sticky notes, just a suggestion. I laughed it off at first. Ethan would roll his eyes and say, "That's just Mom. She's old school." But then she started crossing lines that couldn't be explained away. At our rehearsal dinner, she gave a toast in front of 60 people. I always dreamed my son would marry someone who reminded me of myself, but instead, he found Letitia, and maybe different is good. Everyone laughed, I smiled, but my hands were shaking under the table. After the wedding, things got worse. She'd drop by unannounced, rearrange my kitchen, critique how I folded towels. One time, I caught her whispering to Ethan on the porch, eyes darting toward me. When I stepped outside, they both stopped talking. Still, I stayed quiet. Because I wanted to be the good daughter-in-law, because Ethan loved her, because I thought if I just tried harder, brought over fresh soup, complimented her garden, bit my tongue, maybe she'd warm up to me. That illusion shattered the day I found the messages. Ethan left his laptop open one evening. He was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I was just looking for an email I'd sent him about a grocery list. But as I clicked open the tab labeled Mom, my heart dropped. She had been messaging him nearly every day. "You know she's not your equal, right? She'll drain you. Watch your money." Still think it's not too late to reconsider things. People get annulments all the time. I felt like I couldn't breathe. There were dozens of messages. Some dated back to our honeymoon. And Ethan, he never once defended me. Never said, "Mom, that's not true." Or "Please stop." At best, he just changed the subject. When he came out of the shower, I was sitting on the couch, shaking. "Did you know she said I'd ruin your life?" I asked. He blinked. "Letitia, what are you talking about?" I turned the laptop toward him. For a second, his face was blank. Then came the guilt, the excuses. "I didn't want to upset you. I didn't want to upset her. I thought it would stop. I wanted to scream. But all I did was nod. It didn't stop, and it's not going to." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, hearing her words again and again. "She's not your equal. You can do better." I thought about all the women before me, the friends who had whispered to me over wine about their controlling in-laws, the coworkers who said, "You married the man, not his mom," and smiled like that made it easy. But I wasn't going to let her dismantle my life piece by piece. Not anymore. Because if there's one thing I've learned working in hospitals, it's this: silence never saves anyone. And it was time, long past time, to stop being silent. After that night, everything shifted, not with Agnes, with Ethan. He was quieter, distant, like he was torn between two lives and too scared to choose. He still kissed my forehead each morning, still asked how work went, but something essential had cracked. Trust doesn't shatter all at once. It erodes, slowly, quietly. And while I tried to pretend things were fine, Agnes didn't slow down. She escalated. The following week, she invited Ethan to dinner, just him. When he told me, I asked gently, "Did she say why I wasn't invited?" He shrugged. She said she wanted to talk to me about Dad's estate stuff. But when Ethan returned, he looked tired, almost hollow. I asked what happened. He avoided my eyes. She's worried. Says we argue too much, that we don't seem compatible." I sat back. "Did you tell her she's the reason we're arguing?" He didn't answer. That's when I knew this wasn't just an opinionated mother-in-law anymore. This was a full-on campaign. She was planting doubts and watering them, at work. I started noticing my phone buzzing with missed calls from unknown numbers. One day, I answered out of curiosity, "Letitia." The voice was crisp, female, professional. "This is Linda Kessler. I work at the real estate agency your mother-in-law uses. She said you and Ethan might be looking for something smaller, cozier. She asked me to reach out." I froze. "What?" She said you two might be separating. I hung up. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding, but then I remembered what Agnes said during Christmas dinner last year, how she casually mentioned how her cousin downsized after her divorce smart move before things got ugly. Back then, I laughed. Now, I wasn't laughing. I began looking closer. At everything. The dinners Ethan suddenly had with his mom, the way she'd drop off frozen meals so you don't have to cook when Letitia works late, the sly digs always coated in sugar. I just want what's best for him, for both of you. You're doing your best, I'm sure. And Ethan. He was slipping away, not because he didn't love me, I still believe he did, but because Agnes was rewriting the narrative, one suggestion at a time. She's distant. She's always tired. Are you sure this is the marriage you imagined? It's hard to defend yourself from things whispered behind your back. Harder when it's from someone your husband has known his whole life. But the final straw, the moment I stopped hoping this would fix itself, came 2 weeks later. It was a Tuesday. I came home early from work to surprise Ethan with lunch. He was in the living room, scrolling on his phone. He looked up, startled. "Hey," I said, smiling. "Thought I'd bring you sushi." He nodded slowly, setting his phone down face down. Something about that made my stomach turn. While he went to the kitchen, I glanced at his phone. I know I shouldn't have. I know. But my instincts were screaming. The screen was still lit. It was a text. "Agnes, did you talk to the lawyer? Letitia doesn't have a claim on the house if she leaves before the 2-year mark. Keep calm. Let it ride." I felt ice run through my veins. She wasn't just sabotaging us emotionally. She was playing legal chess behind my back, and Ethan hadn't stopped her. I didn't say anything that day. I couldn't. Rage and heartbreak don't come out in words, not right away. I just smiled, said thank you when he handed me a glass of water, and ate sushi like my world hadn't tilted sideways. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling again. Same ceiling, different silence. I remembered something my grandmother used to say in Spanish, "No puedes sanar en la casa donde te enfermaste." You can't heal in the house where you got sick. So I made a decision. If Agnes wanted to play games, I'd let her. But this time I was going to keep score, and I'd start by collecting receipts. I didn't grow up with money, but I did grow up with survival skills. When you've had to convince landlords to give you 1 more week, or patch your own flat tire with duct tape because payday was 3 days away, you learn how to think fast and move quiet. That's exactly what I did. I started small. The next time Agnes came over, I left my phone on the counter camera recording. She thought I was in the bathroom. I wasn't. I was listening from the hallway. She walked into the kitchen, opened a cabinet, and muttered, "God, no spices." No wonder Ethan looked so pale. Then she picked up the framed photo of me and Ethan from our anniversary and turned it face down. That was day 1. By day 10, I had nearly 4 hours of audio and video, little things, nasty comments, passive-aggressive digs. Once, she told Ethan on speakerphone that some women marry up just to quit halfway, not realizing I was in the next room folding laundry. But the real turning point came when I decided to talk to the one person I'd always avoided, Ethan's ex-girlfriend. The one his mother never stopped talking about like she was Miss America herself. Her name was Caroline. We'd never met, but she still lived in town and had mutual friends with me from the hospital. I reached out, kept it neutral. Said I was doing research for a private matter. Caroline replied with a single sentence. If this is about Agnes, I'll talk. We met at a coffee shop off the highway. Neutral ground. She showed up looking cautious, a little surprised to see me. I thought you were different, she said. I smiled tightly. So did I. Then, over the course of 2 cappuccinos, she laid it all out. Caroline had dated Ethan for 3 years. She was a med student back then, ambitious, loved Ethan, planned to propose to him once she finished residency. But things slowly unraveled. Ethan started pulling away, second-guessing everything. Caroline thought it was burnout. Then one day, she found a note in his wallet, in Agnes's handwriting. You deserve a woman who's present, not someone chasing titles. Caroline confronted Ethan. He denied it. But 2 weeks later, he broke up with her, saying she was too focused on her career and didn't make time for family. He thought it was his idea, Caroline said, looking down at her mug. But it wasn't. It was hers, all of it. I felt like throwing up. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. I asked Caroline if she still had anything, screenshots, like notes, proof. She looked at me like I'd finally asked the right question. You're not the first she's tried to erase, she said. But you could be the last. 2 days later, I had a flash drive, copies of emails, text messages, and yes, the note she found in his wallet. I started building a folder on my computer labeled Operation Clarity. Inside, I collected everything: voice recordings, video footage, screenshots of texts, Caroline's materials. Then I talked to someone I never thought I'd involve: Ethan's brother. Lucas was older, married, lived across the country, and didn't talk to their mom much. I emailed him. Just one sentence. Did Agnes ever try to break up you and Dana? He called me in 10 minutes. The answer was yes. Loud, ugly, yes. She told Dana that Lucas had cheated. He hadn't. Sent fake messages to Dana from a burner phone to make her paranoid. Even paid someone to flirt with Lucas at a company dinner while Dana was there. She wants to be the only woman they need. Lucas said, but we all pay for it eventually. I told him what was happening now. With me, he didn't hesitate. Tell Ethan everything, and if he doesn't believe you send it to me, I'll back you up. I stared at the folder on my desktop that night. So many files, so much evidence. Agnes had been doing this for over a decade, isolating women, controlling her sons, all under the guise of just being a caring mother. It wasn't just toxic. It was a pattern, and I had it all on record. The question wasn't if I'd confront her. It was how and when. Because I wasn't just fighting for my marriage anymore. I was fighting for every woman she'd tried to erase. It was a Tuesday evening when I decided the truth deserved a table. I told Ethan we should host a family dinner, just us, his mom, his brother Lucas, who happened to be flying in that week, and his sister-in-law, Dana. Something simple. I said, we haven't all been together in a while. He looked at me, half suspicious. You okay? I smiled. I just think it's time for some clarity. He kissed my forehead. I'll text everyone. Clarity. That word felt heavier than usual. That Friday night, I set the dining table with the same care as always: candles, linen napkins, wine glasses that hadn't seen sunlight since our wedding registry. But what they didn't see was the hidden camera on the bookshelf, the laptop already connected to the TV, or the USB drive labeled Truth. At 7 p.m. sharp, everyone arrived. Agnes wore pearls and perfume like she was auditioning for the cover of Southern Matriarch Monthly. She kissed Ethan on the cheek, barely glanced at me. Lucas and Dana came in last. He gave me a subtle nod. He was ready. We sat, ate, and made small talk. Agnes dominated the conversation, as always. Stories about the boys as kids, critiques of restaurant menus, and not-so-subtle digs wrapped in fake concern. Ethan, honey, you've lost weight. Are you eating enough at home, Letitia? I saw a post from a friend of yours. She was at a bar on a work night. I suppose some women just never grow out of that phase. Lucas raised an eyebrow. Dana rolled her eyes. Ethan stayed quiet, and then, after dessert, I stood up. "I'd like to show everyone something," I said, walking toward the TV. "It's a short presentation. Just a few things I've collected." Agnes chuckled nervously. "Darling, this isn't work. No need for PowerPoints." I didn't respond. I plugged in the USB and hit play. Silence. The first video rolled Agnes in our kitchen, turning my photo frame down, muttering under her breath. Then a voice recording her telling Ethan I wasn't his equal. Another clip, a phone call to a real estate agent, trying to arrange for Ethan to move before she takes half. Text screenshots, the note Caroline had found, Lucas's statement, Dana's quiet tears, evidence, layered. I played them one after another, for 10 full minutes. No one spoke. When the screen went black, I turned around. Agnes's face was pale, her mouth slightly open. Ethan looked like he'd been hit by a freight train. Lucas was staring at his mother like he didn't recognize her. Dana was gently rubbing his hand. I broke the silence. "Agnes, you've tried to manipulate, sabotage, and gaslight nearly every woman who's come into this family. And I don't say that lightly. I say it with receipts." She stood, knocking her wine glass over. "This is a setup. These are edited. You're twisting things. Are they?" I said calmly. "Because your voice, your handwriting, your words, they don't lie. I just hit play." She turned to Ethan, desperate. "Sweetheart, she's poisoning you against your own mother. I did everything out of love." Ethan finally spoke, quiet, hoarse. "You tried to get me to divorce my wife. She's using you. She's protecting me." He cut in. "From you." Agnes blinked. Twice. Then something in her cracked. Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't feel like grief. They felt like loss of power. The sobs came loud, dramatic, too practiced to be real. "I gave you everything, raised you alone. I just wanted the best for you." "You wanted control," Lucas said flatly. She turned to him like a betrayed monarch. "And you don't say a word for years, and then take her side." He nodded. "Because she's right. You did it to Dana. You did it to Caroline. And now to Letitia. I'm done watching you tear people apart just so you can feel important." The room felt frozen. Ethan stood up beside me. "We're setting boundaries. Starting tonight," Agnes sniffed. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "you don't call unless invited. You don't visit unless confirmed. And if you try to interfere with our lives again, this footage becomes very public. Your friends, your church, your bridge club." Agnes looked like she'd been slapped. "You wouldn't—" Dana stood, calm. Oh, she would. And so would I. No one moved for a long time. Finally, Agnes grabbed her coat, muttered something under her breath, and walked out the door without another word. Lucas followed to make sure she didn't slam anything on the way out. Ethan sat down, head in his hands. "I'm so sorry." I sat beside him. "Me too. But now we get to heal." He nodded. "We do. Because the truth doesn't just burn bridges. Sometimes it clears the air enough to finally breathe. For the first time in our marriage, silence became a gift." Agnes didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up uninvited. Weeks turned into months. Ethan and I began rebuilding what her presence had worn down. We went to therapy. Both separately and together, we started making eye contact again, real eye contact. Not the kind you give each other while trying to dodge the weight of someone else's opinion. Then, one afternoon, a package arrived, no return address, just our names in swirling cursive. Inside was a pale yellow baby blanket, hand-stitched, delicate. It smelled like lavender and guilt. Beneath it, a note. "For your little one. I'm still her grandmother. After all, love, Mom." That was how she found out I was pregnant. I hadn't planned on telling her. I was only 3 months along and still guarding the news like it was a flame in the wind. But apparently, someone in Ethan's extended family had shared the announcement on Facebook, a grainy ultrasound photo with a single caption, "The next Delgado is on the way." It didn't take long for her to reach out more directly. First came the voicemails, tearful, pleading. I made mistakes, but I'm still family, Letitia. Surely you understand what it means to want to protect your child. Ethan, don't shut me out of this. Then came the invitations, brunch, tea, neutral locations. We said no, every time, until one Sunday afternoon, she showed up at our door, bouquet in one hand, stuffed giraffe in the other. I opened the door slowly, with Ethan standing just behind me. Hi, she said, voice trembling. Can I come in? Ethan didn't move. I took a deep breath. No, but we can talk out here, she blinked. The smile faltered, but she stepped back onto the porch and sat on the bench like a guest in her own family's life. I've been reflecting, she started. And I know sorry isn't enough. I nodded, but said nothing. She went on. I want to be part of my granddaughter's life. I won't interfere. I won't overstep. I'll stay in whatever lane you give me. I want to know her. I studied her face. It wasn't the performance from dinner that night. It wasn't polished or performative. It was raw, small. I believe people can change. I said, but they have to earn it. Agnes nodded slowly. How by showing up with respect, not entitlement. By proving they can love without control, and by understanding that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I looked at Ethan, who reached for my hand. We're not ready, he said gently. But when we are, it'll be on our terms. She nodded again, quietly this time. Then she placed the giraffe on the porch bench and walked back to her car without another word. Our daughter, Amelia Grace, was born in early spring, a head full of dark curls, lungs like a lioness. She changed everything. Not just in the way all babies do, but in the way that made us finally feel like our own family. Agnes sent cards, sometimes gifts, always signed, never followed up. And then one day, about 6 months in, we invited her to meet Amelia in a public park with ground rules. She cried. We didn't. She held Amelia like she was holding a second chance. And maybe she was. She didn't ask to hold her longer, didn't offer unsolicited advice. She just sat beside us, quiet, watching her granddaughter coo under the shade of a willow tree. And that was enough. Not redemption, not reconciliation, but peace at least. For now, sometimes, the best endings aren't clean. They're not bows tied around big, perfect resolutions. They're boundaries, quiet, clear, and firm. They're the decision to protect peace over tradition, to choose your future family over inherited dysfunction. They're knowing that just because someone gave birth to your husband doesn't mean they get to parent your life. And maybe that's what healing really is, not turning everything beautiful again, just stopping the damage from spreading. If this story resonated with you, let me know. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you still love? Leave a comment below with if you've been there, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.